What's happening, Colts Nation? Welcome to today's episode of Colts Latest. We've got some news to cover, but before we get to that, as always, got to do our intros here. Thank you so much to FanArch for having me on to talk Colts with all of y'all. Please check out their website at fanarch.com. They've got great content, not only on the NFL, but on college sports, basketball, baseball, hockey, wrestling, boxing, sports card collecting, you name it, they are going to cover it. So check out their website. Please do me a favor as well. Like this video, subscribe to the Colts Latest channel so that I can keep putting out Colts content as the news heats up, and so FanArch can keep doing what they're doing as well. So we appreciate you. All right, let's get to it. The news we have all been waiting for has finally landed. The Colts have used the transition tag on quarterback Daniel Jones, meaning as it stands, he will earn $37,833,000 this season before becoming a free agent again after the season. Now, even though this emerged as the expected move over the past 48 hours, it's news that very few Colts fans wanted to hear. In my experience, most fans fall into one of two camps. Either you're a Jones believer and you wanted the team to sign him to a long-term deal so that they could use the tag on Alec Pierce if needed, or you're in the let Jones walk camp, in which case you also did not like to see the news that the Colts are using the tag on him rather than Alec Pierce. And this also leaves the Colts' future as murky as it could possibly be following the tag period, as it doesn't really solidify either Jones or Pierce as a member of the 2026 Colts roster. Now, I think there are both positives and negatives to the move made today, and I'll get into both in a little bit. But first, here's a little bit more about the move that the Colts made today. Now, as we've talked about, the difference between the franchise and transition tags, other than the money, is that if another team offers Jones a deal that the Colts decline to match, then the Colts receive zero draft compensation, whereas with the franchise tag, they'd receive 2 first-round draft picks for an unmatched offer. Now, the transition tag is rarely used. In fact, the last quarterback to receive the transition tag was a familiar name to the Colts. It was Jeff George with the Atlanta Falcons all the way back in 1996, 30 years ago. In fact, only 20 players at any position have been given the transition tag since the year 2000, and several of those were rescinded once the team and the player agreed to a long-term deal. Now, more often than not, players reach a deal with their team after being tagged. Only 4 players have played out the entire season under the transition tag since 2000, and the last one was Dolphins running back Kenyon Drake in 2020. Also remember, just because the Colts assigned the transition tag to Jones doesn't mean the negotiations end there. The team and Jones can still work towards a long-term deal before the free agency period begins, and other teams can start negotiating with him. However, I'd expect the Colts right now to pivot to signing Alec Pierce to a long-term deal now that they've got this little bit of insurance with Daniel Jones. The team has made it clear that they intend to keep Pierce whether through a long-term deal or the franchise tag. Now that the tag is out of the question, you would think a long-term deal wouldn't be far behind. At least the Colts and their fans had better hope so. Just this morning, ESPN analyst Field Yates said that he could see the market for Pierce surpassing $25 million a year for 4 years, making him a possible $100 million plus contract candidate. If the Colts let Pierce reach free agency without a deal, there's a decent chance a bidding war could ensue and he could fall out of their price range, which would be a disaster for Chris Ballard. Now, I've been thinking about it and going over all of the pluses and minuses around this move. I've gone back and forth on whether this was the right decision for the Colts, but the more I think about it, the more I think it was the only move they could make right now. Before I tell you why, I'll get into the negatives from this move, regardless of whether or not they had a choice. So the number one negative with this move is that it keeps the doomsday scenario open of losing both Jones and Pierce this offseason. Quarterback and wide receiver are probably the two most shallow positions on the free agent market this year. And the fact that teams are going to be able to make offers to both Jones and, as of now, Pierce should be a scary thought for Colts fans, except maybe those who are ready for Riley Leonard to take over as starting quarterback. There are going to be a number of teams with quarterback vacancies to fill. And Jones will be at or near the top of the list of potential additions, along with Kyler Murray, who the Cardinals announced today they'll be releasing next week, Tua Tagovailoa, who would still have to be released or traded, and Malik Willis, who is still fairly unproven. I have to imagine there will be multiple teams interested in the services of Daniel Jones, even with the recovery from that Achilles injury. That injury, however, could be the saving grace for the Colts, as teams might be hesitant to offer Jones a deal so large and for so many years that the Colts would not be willing to match. As for Pierce, this move today hopefully means that the Colts feel as though they're close to a deal, but there haven't been any reports that that's the case other than the Colts saying, we're not letting Alec Pierce go anywhere. The worst case scenario here is that a QB needy team throws like a 4-year, $180 million deal at Jones, and the Colts balk at the price and decline to match. Then a bidding war for Pierce could ensue, and his price could get up to over $30 million a year. And then the Colts could lose to a wide receiver needy team like the Buffalo Bills, or even their division rivals, the Tennessee Titans, whose name I've seen Pierce linked to in free agency. Now, when I posted about the move on Facebook, I was met with more disapproving comments than those of approval. Most of the people upset with the move were so because they don't want Daniel Jones as the quarterback next year. That part of the news shouldn't have been a shock, as the Colts have been saying since the season ended that they want Jones back as the QB of the future. Now, the other reason people seemed upset was because they wanted the tag to go to Pierce, as they felt he was the more important of the two to lock down. And while I can't necessarily disagree with that, the Colts clearly felt that tagging Jones was of greater importance, and this could be for a number of reasons. Most importantly, the Colts feel that there is more depth behind Pierce than there is behind Jones, regardless of how some of the fans feel about Riley Leonard. I don't think the Colts view Leonard as a 17-game starter who's ready to lead the team to the playoffs, nor should they. The guy's a second-year, sixth-round draft pick who has one start under his belt in the NFL in a meaningless Week 18 game. Like it or not, Daniel Jones gives the Colts a much better chance to win than Riley Leonard. Now, behind Pierce, the Colts still have Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, and Tyler Warren as receiving options, and they would almost certainly add a wide receiver in free agency and or the draft should they lose Pierce. Now, obviously, the Colts want to do everything they can to keep both, and they've said as much publicly, but clearly they view Pierce as the more easily replaceable piece, true or not. Now, to all of the doubters and haters, here are a few positives from today's move. First and foremost, placing the transition tag on Jones means that the Colts won't be overpaying him compared to market value. I know there are people out there who think giving him $10 million a year is an overpay, but we're comparing to market value. It's really hard to gauge what kind of market there will be for Jones due to his injury history and spotty play throughout his career. The first 10 games of the 2025 season was the best version of Daniel Jones we've ever seen. But is that the real Daniel Jones, or is it the one who struggled with consistency during his time in New York? That value range makes it difficult for the Colts to come up with a number that they think not only fairly compensates Jones, but also aligns with what his value is to the rest of the NFL. Now, that second question will be answered, and the Colts will be able to make their decision based on that answer. It'll also let Jones know how the league values him. Let's say the Colts were offering Jones $40 million a year for 4 years, and Jones and his agent were asking for $45 million a year, purely hypothetical. Now, Jones has a chance to see if there's anyone out there who values him at that $45 million amount, or if the league sees him more in the $35 to $40 million range, in which case he'd return to Indy and agree on a long-term deal at that $40 million number that the Colts offered. Look, it's definitely a gamble, as a team could come in with an offer that just blows the Colts out of the water. But I think the Colts are prepared to match pretty much any offer that Jones might receive, thereby paying him exactly what the market values him at rather than overpaying. At the same time, if it turns out that teams are scared of the Achilles injury and they don't want to offer Jones a long-term deal, now the Colts get him for a discount at $38 million, and they get a chance to make sure he's fully recovered from injury before signing him to a long-term deal. Once Jones is proven healthy, the Colts can continue negotiating on a long-term deal that could be signed during the season. I think if the Colts were more unsure about their ability to retain Jones, they would have used the franchise tag, thereby getting 2 first-round picks as compensation for an unmatched offer from another team. By using the transition tag, however, they still have the ability to match any offer, but should no long-term offers from other teams arise, now the Colts save $6 million against the cap by having used the transition tag over the franchise tag, money that could come in handy should they need to replace an Alec Pierce or a Zaire Franklin or a Nick Cross. It's a very nuanced situation that isn't all black and white, and the Colts offseason with Jones and Pierce is just getting started, in my opinion. I'd expect news to come out about the current state of negotiations with Pierce over the next few days, and hopefully now that the tag is out of the way, the Colts and Pierce can get down to business on signing a long-term deal, which I think would put many Colts fans' minds at ease for the time being. Okay. If you watched yesterday's episode, you know I introduced a new segment I call Tuesday Trivia, where I ask a question and the first person who gets it right wins an autographed Colts football card. Well, I asked everyone to email me their answers, and apparently that was a little too much because out of the, as of this recording, over 400 people who have viewed the episode, I did not receive one email. So I'm going to give this one more shot here, but today you don't need to email me, just comment here with your answer. And the first person who comments with the correct answer is going to win the prize. If no one answers today, then Tuesday Trivia just might end up being short-lived. Maybe it's something I'll try again in the future. But today, I'm going to ask the same question as yesterday, so you might already know the answer. Here it goes. Peyton Manning made his Colts debut in Week 1 of the 1998 season. Who started the last game at quarterback for the Colts before Manning took over? Peyton Manning took over Week 1 of 1998. Who was the last Colts starting quarterback before Peyton Manning? Remember, just comment below with your answer, and the first person who gets it right wins an autographed Colts football card. Let's see how this goes. I'd love for this to become a regular weekly segment. I have lots of Colts cards to give away. All different players, current players, old players, autographs, jersey cards, rookie cards, you name it. I've got lots of Colts cards, and I want to give them to you for watching my videos. So thank you. Please answer the question. I hope you get it right. I hope you're the first, and I hope you win the Colts card. That's it for today. I know some of you are feeling pretty down about the Colts after this move, but just stay the course. Have faith, and let's see how it goes. The offseason is just getting started, and there are still plenty of dominoes to fall before we get our final 2026 roster. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please go check out fanarch.com and all of their incredible content. Like this video, subscribe to the Colts Latest channel, and let's go Colts!